Greetings, everyone. Hope you all are doing well today. It is day 88 of my 90-day challenge. Once again, every day is just becoming exciting as we're rounding down this first quarter here, rounding down to the end of this quarter. What would you call it? Year end, quarter end. So definitely excited to just get started on the next phase here of my health journey. And I once again I must admit that um, 90 days is a perfect measuring stick to see results, not be too short for that and not too long that you don't follow through, right? You just or start later, right? um, but for myself, you know especially doing this twice already, I know my you know my my current, and once again this is just current, and over time things will change and scale up. But as of now, for my last two challenges, I noticed once again just probably like 60 days, I tend to I start you know fading out, and once again it comes with it comes with timing as well, right? So the timing is first challenge August, and then when it comes to August here and September in Canada, school, um, the school for the youth start again, right, for the new school season. So hence that is you know breaking away from the 2 months routine, right, and getting back into the school grind, as a parent, right? And then here, for this challenge starting the year, um, March is once again being here in Canada. All right, March there is spring break, so spring, and that's 2 weeks long, right? So, and then yeah, it's and then other things as well, with a birthday week for my eldest in February. So it was a rough ride, heading into March, and those last 2 weeks into March. So, but overall, once again, we always try to look for the wins, right? So, hence, I did lose up to uh, 20 pounds, right? So I went from one. I started this year off at 213.6. Last last year, I started at 224, went down to 201, and then as I said, went back up to 213, right, point six. So still, that was a nice win on the first challenge. Took 4 months, off to deal with certain things, and then yeah, just I've put on the weight, but not back to 224, right? So 213.6 was my new benchmark to start off 2026. And then I got down to 194, and as of now we moved a little bit back up to 201, right? And I'm saying it's no blame, no regret as well. I'm definitely spending the time with my family, creating memories, creating moments, right? But it's now the part where you just get back to it, you have the system, you have the formula, and it's just time to get back to it. So just the one thing I'm looking forward to, starting this next challenge next Monday. And once again, my schedule is gonna be changing, so I'm gonna be figuring out how and what that looks like to start out um, the second year of 2026. Starting out this Q2, which is April, May, June. So yeah, we'll be starting. We'll see what I can do in the next until Saturday, and this is the long weekend. So, but I will be working tomorrow. But I'll get the Saturday off and back to work on Monday. So we'll see what I can do till Saturday. Hopefully, I can get myself under 200 pounds again, and one thing that will be my new benchmark to start this new 90-day challenge here. And once again, things will be pivoting as well, as I won't be talking about this health journey as often for this quarter compared to the start of this January. Definitely will be pivoting into uh, sustaining ourselves, creating that second source of income, but at the same time adding in my coaching element of just not feeling the burnout, right? Not feeling the stress, and just taking on one day at a time, 1% a day, right? So this is what we'll be pivoting in next this coming Monday for the next 3 months. Definitely had a. I will still be doing the challenge and for my health, because I still have 40 to 50 pounds to go here. So I'll still be doing that. I'll briefly talk about it on my progress, right? But at the same time, I definitely want to hit my North Star, right? And as the title goes for this video is what is your North Star, right? So overall, for myself, my North Star is my family, my faith, right? And once again, faith means different things for everyone, whether you believe in uh, believe in God, or believe in something spiritual, right? Another one, faith in yourself. So faith means a lot of things, but family as well um, is is going to be the true feel for yourself, right? So having and once again, everyone has different things when it comes to um, what their North Star is. So basically, here um, you gotta focus on what's important to you. So it's comparing the noise versus your North Star, right? So we live in a world that is obsessed with more, right? And that's either like myself, more biohacks, ways to be more productive. Some people, more status, more data. We are like just constantly told that to be optimized, we need to just look outwards, right? But if you strip um, everything away, either the titles, the status, the accolades, um, you know, here the technology, uh, you gotta ask yourself what is actually left standing. And as for myself, I believe that for any life built to last, um, there are like only two things that provide true coordination for myself through the storm. And once again, for myself, that's faith and family. For you, I mean, it maybe that's a great starting point, but you know, once again, that's what makes us human beings definitely unique, right? That we have different interests, different things that fuel us, right? So once again, these aren't just parts of my life. Uh, you know, they are like my North Star. So I definitely shared with all of you what my core values are, and once again, obviously, I don't need to mention about my faith because uh, faith above all. But the three that I've set um, uh, forward in helping me, get through all the decisions makings that we do every day, right? If they say 35, or we deal with 35K decisions every single day. My core value is definitely uh, make sure that I separate the important things out of the noise, right? And once again, my um number one, once again, my family. Um, Number two, my growth, and that can also fall under faith as well, right? And number three, my community, which is once again part of my North Star. Not only just my community on Twitch, but also my community locally, and one that I'll be forming, you know, um, helping the youth. That is definitely a very important thing for myself, and especially my two boys. Right, they have to live in this world as well. So definitely, I definitely will be trying my very best to provide that environment for them and for their friends. So, well, when the clouds of life, gets thick here, right? You just have to see what's ahead. Like looking through, driving through the night, and all you have is your headlights to get you to, an 8-hour trip, right? You, you you can just see as far as you can see on the ground, right? And having to trust your navigation. But that's the one thing that that guides you. Just especially if you're on a boat, and all you can do is just um, just look up and be guided with uh, you know your North Star, your constellations, right? So it's once again, it's building a life that isn't just successful, but significant, right? So once again, what I want to definitely talk about, one of my important things is it's my faith. It has served me very well in life, in a way that especially we shared this world with other people. And definitely I know growing up, um, you know and once again, everyone's different in terms when it comes to being introvert. Yeah, I tend to be introvert, and I definitely didn't grow up with people my age. I was already working at a very young age because we had a grocery store, right? And I was already helping my parents, and obviously, with that is dealing with my parents' friends, right? And so I dealt with mostly adults, and there could be that disconnect with my youth, and that tend to make me a little bit quiet in school, right? But my faith was more of that part where interactions, right? Uh, Fear of just how should I respond to this, right? Not knowing the answer to things. So that was more of my fear of speaking to others. But definitely, as I grew up, right? Other people's opinion just didn't really matter now, right? What really mattered was my faith, and what really mattered was for myself, serving Him, right? Because what is other people's judgment if it's not important that the judgment from Him is important. So I'm just definitely, once again, I'm not talking about religion, right? It's just that, once again, that belief in something, that belief in you, um, and just, once again, that's that unwavering trust in yourself, or in a higher purpose, right? And once again, no one's gonna trust you if you don't trust yourself. It's very important that you have that belief, that faith in yourself. And once again, it's even fuel if there's something even guiding you, like your North Star. So but like once again, in my world of holistic coaching, we talk a lot about mindset, right? But sometimes faith is deeper than the mindset, and that's once again, as I was saying, there is like um, talking in front of a congregation, right? With a lot of people looking at you, right? It definitely, it it goes, it's a lot deeper, because it kind of just blurs out all those people when you're realizing you're you're serving, right? And mindsets is what you think, right? Faith is what is deep down inside yourself, right? And once again, it's the part of imposter syndrome, right? But at the same time, knowing that faith, knowing your stuff, knowing that you know you're doing something that's good, right? Knowing that it's leading to you know uh, a path that is gonna be amazing down the road, right? And once again, it's your soul, and it is, once again, the ultimate biohack for your spirit. And that's why I've things happen for a reason. I could have got into I could got into business coaching, or I could have got into life coaching. But the first thing that you know uh, that came up to me and just made me realize that I'm missing this kind of training for myself, right? And that's where holistic coaching was definitely was resonating with me strongly. And even though it's everyone, the norm, the world, right, knows life coaching, business coaching, obviously holistic coaching is definitely something new. And it's funny, you just, when they say coaching, they just think of someone that is in charge of players, right? Sports, right? But it goes through the same thing. If I'm gonna say teacher, well, I mean, teacher of what, right? Are we gonna lump in a science teacher and a math teacher the same? French teacher or PE teacher the same? No. So I mean, they have different categories. They just seem to, you know, as lumped into one, an assumption, right? So once again, I'm just definitely, uh, holistic coaching is definitely, now focus a lot on, the mindset, but once again, faith is something a lot deeper for myself, right? Once again, mindset makes you think, um, but your for myself, faith just draws that inner power uh, from you know my spirit, and that's what makes us human. We feel things, right? Once again, mind just process and gathers or gathers and processes information. Our physical body uh, implements our actions, right? And once again, it's definitely, once again, spirit is just truly, is the ultimate biohack, because it just definitely brings you to another level. And once again, I mean, I'm just talking from myself, right? Everyone has their own north star that is very important to them. That despite what's in the path in front of you, you know, uh, you know that you're heading towards a direction, a destination, whatever that direction means. You're heading towards, um, you just need, where you need to go, right? The journey is, once again, it's not always clear and black and white, right? It's just, it's full of obstacles, full of detours, right? And it's just, we just really got to treat ourselves and 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 think like Google Maps. If you lose your directions and take a wrong turn, well, it doesn't get angry, right? It doesn't get frustrated. It just, it pivots and calculates a way for you to get on path, to get on track. So, you just gotta be, you gotta be like Google Maps, right? And just reflect on how you can get back on track again, right? So, here, humility over ego. Faith reminds us that we are not the center of the universe. It just, once again, faith keeps us humble. Definitely has kept me humble as much, because at the end of the day, we we'll need each other, and there's no point. There's nothing like being above someone, right? Or having being below someone, right? Giving your power to someone else. It's just one thing. It's just a collaboration, and it's if you want to be, you have to show up. It's not about finding the right relationship, the right partner. It's choosing on who you are in that partnership, right? Especially you'll be working someone. It's like you're choosing on what you represent in that partnership, where you guys can fill in each other's gaps, right? To create something whole. And also, once again, it's just, once again, it reminds us that our life is just, it's just being loaned to us, right? And there's one, there's going to be that day when we have to return, and that return may mean something different for a lot of people, death, or finally serving him, right? Or what's the word, um, like born again. What's the word, reincarnation, right? So yeah, I mean, everyone has a different beliefs when it comes to when our physical form has um, yeah, our vessel, our vehicle has reached its limit, and now our soul and our spirit you know, takes a different form, right? So once a faith is means a lot for for has a different meaning for all of us. When you have your faith in your North Star, every decision gets filtered, and that's why having your core values is very, very important, because as I said, we go through 35,000 decisions every day. If you don't have any way of filtering that, you're just going to be chasing every shiny objects, and having that FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, but it's taking you in such a totally different decision. You know, chasing every opportunity, but not mastering one, right? So once again, does these things align with the person that you want to become, right? If you can answer no, and once again, like I said yesterday, I think I said yesterday, develop when everything's a skill. Developing that skill to say no is going to serve you so much in the future, right? That it definitely has served me on this journey of mine, right? When COVID hit, definitely has served me in pursuing, my bliss, my blissopine, right? My happiness, aligning, that with my three core values: family, right? My growth and my community. And that's this is why I changed my schedule, which will be starting next week. It has to be and once again, it has to be a win-win situation, that you know you have to create an offer that it's hard for them to refuse. It's just stupid, as Hermosi would say. It's just stupid to say no, right? So sure, I'm giving up. I'm just finding out I'm giving up 3 hours, right? But the goal was to get my 4 days, work 4-day weeks, and I've accomplished that mission. And that is more time with family, more time for my growth, my education, which was the key, one of the keys to all of this. And then obviously with that extra day, and once again, I'm gonna figure out how that's gonna look like in next week when it finally starts. It gets me the chance to spend time as well to my community, and figuring out this beautiful world we have together, right? Just and filtering through all the possibilities, all the paths that we can take to what really matters the most for my community. So this is definitely why the path I've taken. And once again, the meditation, the focusing on your health or holistic approaches have definitely developed my intuition, that gut feeling. And it's still young to decide if this was the right choice. And not all intuition and gut feeling are you know um, going to be successful. But if it's successful 8 out of 10 times, wouldn't you take those odds, right? If you have 500 positive comments, and then you know two or handful of negative comments, are you gonna let those two negative comments stop you from doing what you're doing, right? Stop you from seeing those 500 comments? And once again, it's being humble as well, right? Those if those things don't have a constructive feedback, then obviously it means nothing, right? But if they do, then it's something that to be aware of, right? It's a learning experience. It's a challenge that's worth overcoming, and it just makes you so much better. So once again, just stop trying to your best to control all the variables around you. Lean into just lean into reflection, and if it aligns with your your core values, right? It's just once again, it's just trusting the process, trusting your intuition, your gut feeling. And that's where the real power comes from, right? It's not being convinced to do, but something that you own, that you feel deep down inside, that this is the right path, this is the right way towards your North Star. So once again, it's you just have to find, decide what's really important to you, what's gonna fuel you, right? It's if you're going to treat yourself as a battery, right, a cell phone, right? You got to write two lists. On the left side, right, is what fills your battery. What activities make you happy, makes you excited, makes you realize where has the time gone, gets you in the flow of things, just enjoyment. And obviously the other side, what activities, what things just drain your battery. And it's easy to say do more of this, do less of that. But sometimes, once again, it's knowing, right? Knowing what is important to you, what's your North Star. And once again, write down those write down those 25 things that are important to you. And then out of that mind dump, decide on, okay, what are the 5 things, or for myself, I would love to say here in the program, what are your top 3 things, right, out of all that, to get started, to focus on, right? And once you circle those 3 things, right, those other 22 things are now a distraction, right? So good to have around, put them in the vault, right? But those 3 things, put them on a new paper and just post it up in front of you, post it on your screen, post it on your ceiling. What's going to be the first thing you're going to see when you're waking up, when you get out of bed? What's the first thing that you see? You put it in front of a mirror that that's or on the wall, right? Just those 3 things, whether it's your core values, your 3 North Stars, right? What are those three? And once again, we can do everything, look at everything, right? But yeah, uh, are we going to be completing everything? And unfortunately, our lives are not that long. It's very short, and if we once again, if we're not looking after our our health span, right? What's worth living this lifespan if it's not being optimized, right? If we're feeling 10 years, 20 years older than what's on our what's on a piece of paper, right? So you just gotta realize, what's truly important, what really matters to us, and then definitely pursue it. So just so how do you move? How do you, take the philosophy and just take you know these things in a sense of urgency? What is going to be your move to take action? Right? So just definitely a lot to reflect here, and definitely um, we are heading to that second quarter here, right? Have you achieved anything these first 3 months? You know, you have completed 3 months out of 12. We're down to the next 9 months. Have you reached a checkpoint? Right? Have you stayed on track with your resolutions? Have you reached any progress or reached new milestones that will power you, that will fuel you to to progress, move forward, reach a new target? And as um, you have to come to some point of you got to stop looking for the next big thing to save you. Right? The lottery is nice and everything, but it's not going to save you if you don't create the habits, the 1% habits each day on growth, uh, sustaining, retaining, right? um, uh, Once again, when's the next best thing to plant a tree? It's now. It's already here at this moment, right? Whether it's in your prayer, your meditation, where or having that quiet moment to yourself, to once again to trust yourself, uh, trust that that belief in yourself, your faith, and sometimes it's just you know looking in the mirror, right? It could just be something that right across the table from you, or just gazing out into space, or just gazing out into um, things in front of you. Once again, you're building that intuition, gut feeling, and setting those questions to challenges for your mind to process that information of the day and formulate a situation, a solution for you. We should just we should optimize our ourselves, our soul, our spirits, and once again protect your north star, protect your home. uh, you know Everything else, the health, the career, the growth, those things will just flow naturally, and align, right? So once again, hopefully, all I can say, and for myself, is definitely stay humble, stay hungry for growth, and never ever lose sight of your North Star. So hopefully, this has been helpful to all of you. I really, once again, thank my community over on Twitch to, just always bring the smiles and laughter and joy, and just once again keeping me motivated to keep going, and remind myself of my North Star, right? Which is that my uh, most important is my faith, and my family, and you know once again my community will just align with that, right? And silence is power. Just use pauses after you know mentioning your North Star to let the words sink in. Your faith, once again, faith for myself, faith and family, like, are these things bringing me closer to that, or are these things pulling me away from that? So so just have that deep reflection, and know that you're almost there, even though if it doesn't seem like the results are not there. But when it gets harder, this is the part where you're gonna need to make that breakthrough, right? And once you make that breakthrough, as they say, the first million is the hardest. After that, it's it just it seems it just seems to be just keeps on coming, and now it's just up to the next challenge to find ways to break through. But once again, hopefully this has been helpful. Once again, I appreciate all of you. If has been a talk that has been beneficial to you, feel free to like or give this video the thumbs up. This is being streamed on 3 different platforms: YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So feel free to follow or subscribe whichever platform you are watching in from, right? And hit those notification buttons when I go live. And as always, once again, you can stay connected with my QR code there that leads to my linked tree style website, which is coachryanj.com. Once again, we'll be pivoting here next week, and definitely had a wonderful talk with my business coach this morning. So we're gonna be pivoting into that direction to help you guys just create that plan B, right? Plan B, and that's where we're figuring out things to just really help you get started. And once again, all I can do is just talk about it. At the end of the day, it's if it resonates with you, it you know feel free to take that action. But at the same time, um, I can believe in you, but it's at the end, it's you. Are you able to believe in yourself that this may be and if you're not contented, and as I always say, well, not only say, but just saying, just never settle. You things are temporary, same as challenges as well. So just just keep pushing forward. If you fall, if you fall 7 times, rise up 8. Right, just keep on going. Right, keep on just overcoming these challenges and just continue to move forward. So once again, as always, just continue to raise your environment, and this is what I'm hoping to create here and working towards creating here. Definitely starts with my Twitch community, but you know, there's only going to be, you know, as I say, 3 to 5% of you that you will take that action, and unfortunately, the rest is the situation has not yet manifested, right? And I'm happy if they're happy, and I'm providing that distraction therapy, but definitely I want to focus in making lasting impact and change, right? So that's being my North Stars, and that is creating a future that is gonna help my family, my community, but at the same time, it's gonna include a lot of people that just will resonate with it. All right. So once again, raise your environment so that you can raise yourself and develop into becoming that person that you believe that you can be. Have faith in becoming that person. And once you break out of that cocoon, you can finally be the impact in your own environment, your friends, your family, your colleagues, your very own community. So just once again, just have that faith in yourself, have that faith in those that matter to you the most. Have faith in your North Star. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I wish you a wonderful long weekend here, and we will catch each other on the next stream. Take good care.